Today's a doozy. Hi, welcome to the episode.
Welcome back to Read Between the Lines. And we are in part 2, basically, what we kind of alluded to last week, where we're going to talk about self-help again, but the ones that we really didn't like.
Self-help that can go fuck itself.
Self did not help. The unhelped self.
The unhelped. That might be a title. If it's not dibs.
Right? If not, like somebody needs to write that. The unhelped self. It's got to be.
I'm sure it is.
I feel like no ideas are like unique ideas at this point. There's so many people in the world.
Right.
But I like to think that maybe someday I'll have a doozy of an idea.
And maybe that's why we're not enjoying some of these self-help books.
Probably.
Not all ideas, they're authentic, but maybe not unique.
Right. And just because we don't like this self-help book doesn't mean that it's a bad book. Right? There are going to be plenty of people who completely disagree with my choice.
I know people will disagree because the book I'm going to, both of them actually, highly recommended. And maybe it's just not where I was in my life.
Yeah.
When I read it. So.
That's fair. Yeah, there's just a few that maybe it wasn't the right time for my lifestyle. Maybe it wasn't, I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah.
I think the best way to approach it is just
rip the Band-Aid off.
Jump in head first. Tell us.
What did you hate?
What are you hating?
The 4 agreements.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh
so,
my.
Right? And so like literally
dishonor on you.
Dishonor on your house. Dishonor on your family.
Cow.
That book. So I just read it recently.
Okay.
Right? Because I'd seen it several times. It's fresh. It's probably why I have such a visceral reaction to it. But I remember reading it. It's not a long read. No. So if you're looking for something quick, great option.
Yeah.
Not long, but it just fell flat for me. It fell flat.
Interesting.
It seemed like somebody wrote just how to be a decent human. And as somebody who grew up being taught how to be a decent human, it felt like a little bit of a waste of time for me.
Maybe unnecessary for you. I know there's a lot of people that need to know how to be a decent human and should probably be reading this.
But here's the thing. I'm not saying I'm a decent human. I was raised to be a decent human. There are decent human days in my life.
You got decent human qualities.
I have decent human qualities, but I can't tell you that I'm a great human all the time because I'm not. I'm human. Like, that's kind of the part of it. And I think that there were some things in this book where it was like, well, if you do this, then you'll never have to worry about these things. I'm sorry. The world exists. People exist. Bad days exist. Right. So yes, I love the idea of a positive mindset. I love the idea of, not being tied to certain material things. I love all of those ideas, but in practice, and maybe I'm just not ready for the book, right? Maybe that's the point, is that you're supposed to give up and do these things.
Or maybe you're past the book.
Right, and that was the other thing. Part of me was like, I feel like I've already kind of read this stuff. I feel like this is something that, because I do come at the world typically with a very positive mindset. I'm always hunting for the good stuff. I'm always looking for, the lesson or the reason or something to get out of even a bad situation, or saying like, hey, today was shit, but because today was shit, tomorrow's going to be great. That kind of a mindset I already have.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I am sarcastic as hell. I have a dark sense of humor. I know all of those things, but they don't affect my everyday experience of the world. Yes. I can still raise my kids with that same mindset of like, hey, we are kind and respectful and polite and helpful and positive and all of these other things that go with it. I remember like policing my own face when I was reading the book. I remember sitting in my backyard because it was a gorgeous day outside. I was sitting in my backyard. I was like, I'm going to read this book. I have the time. It's going to be great. And I remember just sitting there and like my face was just like, ugh, like, no. This is a waste. I should have brought another book, but I also wanted to finish it.
Because you're not a quitter.
Not for most things, but it didn't fit me.
Yeah.
And I read it and I added it to my book chart for the year because it's a book that I read and it's not one that I recommend. And I'm glad I bought my copy at Five Below because I didn't spend that much money on it. And if it finds its way never onto my shelf again, that's fine.
Interesting. So very interesting, because I did read that book a long time ago. And I can't say that I had an experience one way or the other with it. I don't remember. However, as you were speaking, I did remember one. It was The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Tolle? I think it's Tolle.
Yeah. So first time I tried to read that book, could not. I got into it. I was policing my face. I was confused. I was just like, there's no way.
Right.
There's absolutely no way. Okay. So I set it down and I was like, I'm not getting anything out of it. This is hard to understand. So I walked away. I picked it up probably a year ago and read it so quickly.
Oh, did you?
Everything made sense. Everything clicked. Highly recommend it now. I know we're talking about ones we didn't like.
Yeah, but I mean,
but I
you
had
you're
that same
having,
experience.
Yeah.
The first time I tried to read it, I was like, whew. And then the second time I read it, and I believe there's something in the book that says you'll know when it's the right time to read this because you'll be able to.
Okay.
And I was like,
I don't hate that.
I was like, ugh, you can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna make it through. Like
I'm gonna do it tonight. Right now is my
Yes.
time because I said it's my time.
Exactly. Not because
I
of you.
am the steward of my own calendar.
Right. I drive my own ship. But yeah, so it was that same way. The first time I read it, hated it. Did not understand why everybody else liked it. Came back a couple years later, definitely was in a place where I was ready to receive it.
Interesting.
So, you know.
So you're telling me I have to keep this dang book and try it again?
I mean, you've already got it.
I know.
But no.
No, it's just one of those where I think part of it is that I have read several of these ideas in several other places.
Yes.
And I think it's something that when I do some of my mentorship with people who are kind of trying to find, the positive mindset and things like that, I'm already talking about these things in different
Right.
words, of course, because
Right.
I hadn't read the book yet. But it didn't seem groundbreaking, and I think I had put a lot on it.
Yes.
Because it didn't move my world.
Yes.
And I was like, move my world.
That's
Do for me what you did for everyone else.
right. I want the same experience.
Yes, but maybe my world needed not to be moved at that point.
And maybe your world was already past that.
It's possible. It's very possible.
And you did not need those reminders because you had moved on to other things. That's also a huge possibility.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So it was
Kind
not a
of the
book for me
theme.
at that point, but it definitely is a book for a lot of other people.
yes.
Who needed it at that time,
Who needed it?
I
And
just
who
didn't like it.
could get something out?
right?
Everybody's different.
Right. All right, tell me. Your turn.
So,
Make the people mad.
I think sort of like this, like your example, I'm thinking it's because I read it too late
Okay.
and I already knew the principles going into it. So, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
I didn't read that one.
This is a huge one for a lot of people.
Okay.
I know money is a huge deal.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's trying to figure out how to get that millionaire mindset.
Right.
There are certain things that you do to tweak your thoughts. There are reminders, there are practices. This book does have a practice piece.
Okay. Which we know.
So
I
you
love.
get your lesson and then you have to put it into practice so you're not just being like talked to
Right.
about it, that you're actually going to try the things.
Right.
But again, I think I just got it too late
Okay.
because it was very much like an eye roll.
Yeah. See, that's how I felt.
And it's just like, it's not that, like, sure, maybe that is the great advice if you're not in that mind space, right? And so nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying I'm better. I'm not saying I'm better off. I'm not,
Yeah.
putting down people that's worth for. I think it's just when you pick it up in your journey.
Yeah.
And I think at the time that I read it, I had a good money mindset. I had already read other books that got me to that point. And so when this book came recommended, I was like, ooh, we're going to learn about money and like we're going to keep moving. But it didn't build upon anything. It just reiterated what I had already read. So I think that's why it didn't hit for me. But I know
Right.
a lot of people get a lot of use out of this. It has a huge practice piece in it where you're writing stuff down, you're reminding yourself, there's affirmations, there's all kinds of things. So I did not like it. However, I would probably recommend it
Okay.
to people who are still in their money mindset journey.
That's fair. I actively avoid anything with the word millionaire in it. Honestly, it's one of those words where if I see a book and it's like, how to become a millionaire, this, millionaire, I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because my goal has never been the millionaire thing.
Yes.
Right? Would it be cool to have a surplus of funds? Yes. Is that where I live my life and my focus? Absolutely not.
Right. Right.
I'm more based on experience, based on, quality of life, based on like, those are the things that I find to be really important, where there are a lot of people who their main goal is how can I secure my finances so that the rest
Yes.
of my world falls into place, which is a
Yes.
very great understanding. Like, it's a
Yes.
very great way to live life for some people, and for some reason that's just not me.
Yes.
It's just not. And
Get
I'm
that.
sure there are plenty of places where I can improve in this, right? I'm not saying that that's the way to do it. I just know that that's not the hook for me.
Yeah.
But if the hook is like, hey, figure out how to better routine your mid-afternoon so that you don't feel the slump, I'm like, tell me more.
That's where we're
Could
at.
I please have all of the details?
Yes.
If you're like, hey, I found this really great planner that's going to help you combine, both your mindset piece and all of the crap you have to do, I'm in. I
That's where you're at.
take my money that I didn't read that book about.
Right. Exactly. Here, take it.
Take the money because I didn't read the book, so I don't need that book, but I need this book.
But I need this one. Yes.
Yes, so that's kind of where I am. for
Yeah.
that one.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Not there in your journey.
Yeah. It's just
And not for you.
Money doesn't do it for me. I wish it did, frankly.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of books for me to read.
The money mindset for me.
That's fair.
How do you think there's so many books. There's so many books on this.
Right.
That it's just you can hit it from every angle.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she said.
I didn't read a lot of I read a lot of books about solopreneurship, right? When I had my own business, right? I had my own marketing company. I did it for years.
Yeah.
But I didn't read a lot of best practice business books.
Oh no.
Because my business wasn't a product.
Right.
And it wasn't like a marketable, it was just me.
Yep.
So it's very different. There are very few books that kind of fit the niche that I slid into.
Yep.
And it wasn't ever my intention to grow the business to a corporation.
Right.
My intention was always to cover the gap.
Right.
Cover the gap. So it was work to live, not live to work.
Yeah. Yep.
And so that wasn't ever a thing for me. So I have a whole shelf of business books.
Yeah.
And
that just don't fit.
That don't fit, that I didn't read.
Yeah.
I didn't read, and I still recommend them. And a lot of them are by people that I respect.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't do it.
It just wasn't for you.
It was not, and it still isn't, and that stinks because I'm kind of like, oh, you sometimes look at books. I'm like, I really wish I could have gotten into that.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't there for me.
Yes. Yeah. Highly agree. I think that's the beautiful thing, right, about self-help books is it doesn't mean anything about you if it doesn't fit what you're looking for. Maybe you picked it up at the wrong time. Maybe it wasn't what you needed to hear in the moment.
Nope.
Maybe that's not what your journey was, but there's always plenty more to go back. So I'm curious, are there any others?
There's one, and it's
Okay.
more of a movement than a book.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So the Marie Kondo book, the first one.
Ooh.
Yeah, the one.
The first one, did she?
Well, she had the book, and then I think she had a TV show, and then she had, she had
several
things.
She did have a
She had a
movement.
lot
You
of
are
things
correct,
that happened.
yes.
And I don't have anything against her. And I love the idea of getting rid of the stuff that doesn't serve you, right?
Yeah.
Highly recommend that. But as a human who is quite busy and who does not try to get extra of things, I don't have 18 pairs of shoes to decide which ones bring me joy. Right?
They're just functional.
It's function, right? So a lot of the things I have are function. A lot of the other things I have are for purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, function, but in a way that I don't want to sit there and go through and hold everything
And have to think about it.
right? And then
deeply.
there are certain things that are in my closet that probably need to go, but I just don't care enough.
It takes a lot of brain power
It
to get to
does.
that point to be like, yes or no, make a decision right now.
Right,
You
and
have to be in the right mind space for that.
You do, and I was not in 2020. I think when this kind of all went through, I was trying to figure out how my kindergartner at that point was going to go to school. And so instead I had picked up a second job of my own, which was teaching online. Do you remember when I did that?
Yeah, I do remember
I did
this.
the whole,
yes.
it was 5 days a week. I was doing a
Yes.
2-hour online course for, preschool through first grade. Life was crazy. And then there was this whole thing about but also, while you're doing all this and pandemic in your life, also please get rid of all the shit you don't need.
Right.
Ma'am,
Clean it out, make some
ma'am,
decisions.
the first decision I am making is getting rid of you because I do not need that negativity in my life. So she
You
went
do
first.
not bring me joy.
Right?
You are gone.
Right, and so it was always a thing that I kind of, like, that I always joked about. Because if something would happen, I'd be like, well, that doesn't spark joy, so, like, out of here, you know?
Yes. I Marie Kondoed my Marie Kondo.
Right, exactly. And so that was kind of the thing. But it wasn't, and that's more of, like, in jest, right? But it was a thing that I couldn't get behind. And I was like, and everybody else was doing it.
Yes.
And I was like, well, no, I feel bad because I don't have things that I really want to get rid of.
Right.
Because I like them. And it's not because I just want to have them as things. It's because, like, when I do get rid of my angel food cake pan because I don't need it anymore, I then need my angel food cake
You
pan.
then need it. Yes.
Right? Like,
And I'm thinking if it's already paid for, then
I don't want
it's
to
not
rebuy
hurting
it.
anything, right?
No. And the idea that I could possibly, and the thing is, there are several things that, I have a smaller home now than I've ever had, and it's works perfectly for us, but it also makes me very intentional about the things that I bring into it.
Right. Yeah. You're bringing in with intentionality.
Exactly.
You don't
so
need
I
to
don't have
clean
to,
out.
I now don't have to do that piece.
Right.
But it's clearly still stuck in my head where I'm like, well, do I really need this thing? And so now I'm focused more on experiences than
Definitely
I am
made an
things.
impression.
It did. So good, better, and different. She's not my cup of tea.
No.
I have enough judgment in my own body that I don't need, like, somebody else to come in and be like, hi, you have too much shit.
You have too much shit.
Man,
Get rid of it.
I have too much, like, mental things going on as far as, like, just the words that are flying around in my brain. I don't have time to figure out
I would
joy
like to get those out
on top
first.
of that, right? Right? If you could get this earworm of a song out of my head, maybe we can talk about the things that don't spark joy. Like, but if I have to hear the same damn song again, I'm going to lose my mind.
Right. That's one. I would like to go.
Right? Like, just
Yes.
And the song changes all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
The idea that people have quiet brains, completely foreign to me.
I don't understand it.
Right?
Not
Because
at all.
if nothing's going on in my brain, I'm talking to myself.
There's something. There's
There's
always
a thought.
something.
There's always like, oh, by the way, you have a little bit of space in your brain. You could think about this thing from 4th grade.
And usually it's
Decades
a song
ago.
from, the 1900s.
Stop. That was rude. The 1900s.
From the 1900s.
The 1900s. Goodness
Yes.
gracious.
I think there was another. I think it was a very much a movement as
Okay.
well. Was Untamed.
Okay. Also, I think it's funny that we didn't discuss these ahead of time. We do keep our recommendations mostly secret from each other until we
Yes.
get on to chat.
Yes.
So most of the time when we're talking about things, I don't know what you're going to say because we haven't discussed it before.
Surprise!
Right? And so it's interesting that we both picked a well-known book and then a movement.
Yeah, and then a movement book.
Yes,
because because we would talk about this for hours before and then get on here and have nothing to share with you.
Right? So aren't you lucky that you get the
Yay.
uncut, untamed version of our true,
Uncut, unfiltered,
unadulterated thoughts.
That's right. Well, maybe they're not quite that. But yes, Untamed. Untamed was hugely popular for a while. And honestly, I picked it up. I know I'm a couple years late now. I think
I
it's
haven't
been
read
out
it
for a
so
while.
I'm super late. I still don't think I've read it.
I got, well, as I talk about it, you might.
I might.
You
let me
might
know.
realize.
You let me know.
But I got everything I needed out of the book
Okay.
in the first page, the first story, maybe the first chapter. Like, I forget how long of a span it was. And then everything else after that was her experience with that. So,
Okay.
like, reading about her life lessons.
Right.
Things that she did that, reminded her to live an untamed life. Or
Okay.
things that came up that reminded her that she was caged. And it's just, it was not an interactive. It was more of like a
Talking at.
biography, maybe, like a
Ooh.
this is my story.
Okay.
And maybe you'll get something out of it.
Okay.
Kind of experience. And that's not really the way I like to consume my books.
Right.
Because as we talked about, we need a little practice piece. We need a little...
Draw me in. Teach me how.
Yeah, teach
me to
me.
fish.
Exactly.
Teach me to fish. I think
Exactly.
that makes a lot of sense. And there are some writers who do it really well.
Yes.
Who they weave their story into the lesson, into whatever's happening. Like, hey, here's the point I want to make about this thing. Here's the story that goes with it. Here's a little bit of what you can do.
Yeah.
And then there are the writers who do all of the learning piece first, learn all of these things, and now here's all about me.
Right.
I know you wrote the book,
Right.
but if you're writing it with an audience in mind, do you like to go to a party and listen to somebody just talking about themselves?
That's exactly what this was.
Also, fully understanding that y'all are listening to a podcast of us talking about ourselves and our lives. I get that, but I'm also not trying to sell you a book.
Right. Right.
Right, I'm not trying to teach you anything. I'm just having a conversation.
Yes.
So there are... I also read a different book by somebody that I know. So I'm not going to name the person or the thing. And the book was mostly a repetition of like the same sentiment.
Yes.
Being like, oh, well, I do this thing and that's how I live this life. I do this thing, that's how I live this life. And it was the same thing over and over and over again. And so by chapter 3, I was like, okay, I get it.
Yes.
But what, how, why,
Yeah.
where?
How do I apply this?
Yeah, like what are the things that are going to change for me in
Yes.
this? Give me concrete examples, not just your experience.
Yes. Yes.
And also, fully aware again, I'm not a writer and have not written a self-help book. Have I thought about it? Yes.
Maybe.
Have I considered,
Maybe.
you know, doing the parenting thing? Because I have an interesting parenting, like the way that I parent is a little bit different than, you know, people who are being raised today. But that doesn't mean that I think I'm right, which is why I haven't written it.
Exactly.
Because I'm like, like the audacity that I think I would have to...
You would have to have. I mean, you would have to
Right,
write a book.
I don't think I have it yet.
And that's not a bad thing.
No, it's not at all. And I think it's a form of strength and confidence, and it's one that I don't have yet. And I know that.
And I think that kind of goes into my choices of books. It might not be a bad book. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
It just wasn't how I like to consume. And I was past that point in my journey where I've already realized that caged feeling for myself. You know, whether I put it into practice or not, completely different story. But
Right,
like,
but I know it. Knowing
but
is half
I'm
the battle.
awareness. I have the awareness now.
The more you know.
The more you know. Little rainbow. Also
Right.
aging ourselves with that one
1900s. You hush yourself.
from the 1900s.
Late 1900s. Good Lord. That shouldn't even be a phrase.
Well, that is where we are.
It really is.
Welcome to it.
Welcome to the late 1900s, but not. Welcome back. Harken back.
Hark. Welcome back.
The hark. I hear a slap bracelet and a pair of jellies coming down the hallway.
Oh my goodness. We went there.
We went there 100%.
That's probably when I needed this book.
Right? But that's what I'm saying. I
Yes.
think, you know, there are just certain things that hit us at the right times, and these just didn't. And so, again, not to say that they're bad books, just that they're not...
They
ain't
weren't
the
for
books
us.
for us.
They're not
No.
our cup of wine.
No, 100% not. So, but let us know what's your not self-help book? Like, what is the thing that didn't help the self for you?
Didn't help the self.
Didn't help the self. And do you agree? Like, did you get something different out of the ones we read? Because clearly they were
Very popular.
Yeah, they were popular ones.
Very
they weren't
helpful.
obscure things.
No.
But would love to know what you
Curious to
read and
hear.
hated, or at least disliked, and why. Because...
And isn't it so funny when you're like, ew, this stinks. Smell it.
Right?
You're like,
This is the
I
worst.
disliked this book. You read it.
Right, you read it and tell me what you
Am
think.
I crazy or is this like really just not good? So we love that. So this book stinks. Here, smell it.
Here, you let us know if you also liked or didn't like it. But
Yes.
we will look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And until then, read well and have a good wine time.
Hasta la vista, baby.
It was great to have you join us for today's chat. If you'd like to continue the conversation, provide a recommendation, or simply say hi, pop over to Instagram at wine.read.wine. Also, if you're the review type person, we'd love for you to subscribe and leave us an honest review on your favorite podcast player. Or leave us a comment on our YouTube channel. We'll see you on the next episode. Happy reading!